It's true that there are not many women in this field, especially if you think about Web3 and I was a CEO for many years in the blockchain space, and often I would find myself speaking at events like on my own, and it was a bit weird on my side as well. But I think the main thing that we need to do is to educate about why do we need diversity, what can women bring on the table, and diverse backgrounds bring on the table, and really bring facts. So it's very well known that companies that have a diverse leadership team, they are 30 to 40% more productive. They have more ideas. They have more creativity.
Hello everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Conversations with Leaders. I'm Sam North, your host, and today we're joined by Sanja Kon. Sanja, how are you?
Hey Sam, nice to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast again. It's been a few years now. Of course, we linked up back at Web Summit all those years ago in Lisbon, but it's great to have you on the podcast since then and again now. So we've got a few comments and subjects for us to talk about today. But how have you been this year so far? Everything going well?
I'm good. Thank you. So I think the last time we spoke, I was at 𝗧𝗸𝘆𝘀. I was the CEO of 𝗧𝗸𝘀, and we exited the company to a layer 1 blockchain. And now I'm leading 𝗧𝗀 commercially for Europe. So lots of changes. Had a baby as well since the last time we spoke. So always new things.
Yeah, that's a lot of change. So I imagine there's a few more sleepless nights at the moment. But how is everything going at 𝗧𝗀? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So 𝗧𝗀, in the last couple of years, 𝗧𝗀 has been focusing on building regions because 90% of our revenues are outside of the US. So there's a more regional approach. I'm building the European team, which is very exciting.
Fantastic. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that in due course. And you've obviously got a book that's come out recently. The link is in the bio for everyone, so do go check that out. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But I guess let's start what got you into the world of finance and investing, and particularly in a field where women are traditionally underrepresented. How did you get involved in all of that? What inspired you?
Yeah, actually, I never thought I would be in this field because growing up, I first, like in school, they never teach me about investing on finance. And I think for my generation is something that either your parents or your caregivers, your family passed on to you, or it was very difficult to learn about these subjects. And so for me, since young age, unfortunately, and that's something that I talk about in the book, I come from Sarajevo, Bosnia, so I was born there, and because of the war, my family had to leave our home country, and we went to Italy, to Milan. And in the meantime, the whole banking system collapsed, and we lost a lot of money. Family members got stuck there. We were not able to communicate. We were not able to send money back there. So I think, since young age, I had this question about how can that even be possible? Like, how can you lose money you earn for it? Like you worked for it, you earned it. It was in the bank and poof, like it's not there anymore. And a third party took it. So I always had this in the back of my mind. And I think, that brought curiosity to learn more. And finally, I think in 2016, I read the Bitcoin white paper and something clicked. And I started to invest in digital assets and particularly Bitcoin at the time. And it clicked because it talked about, peer-to-peer money transfer, the absence of a third party. So I think that's what got me like really hooked. So although I studied at university, like there was a lot of like finance subjects, it was so high level and it didn't make sense. For me, when it really made sense was when I read the Bitcoin white paper.
Fascinating. I wonder how many people are in a sort of similar boat where they went to school and it wasn't really taught, and their parents came from different fields, and it almost was a case of you stumble into this world of crypto, you find this white paper, and it's just like boom. I wonder how many people are in a similar boat listening to that. Can you share some of the key challenges you faced as a woman in the finance world, and how you overcame them, and how maybe people that are going through the same thing could also do that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's true that there are not many women in this field, and especially if you think about Web3. And I was a CEO for many years in the blockchain space, and often I would find myself speaking at events like on my own. Um, and it was a bit weird on my side as well. But I think, the main thing that we need to do is to educate about why do we need diversity, what can women bring on the table, and diverse backgrounds bring on the table, and really bring facts. So it's very well known that companies that have a diverse leadership team,
Yeah.
they are 30 to 40% more productive, they have more ideas, they have more creativity. And you have more debate and just better companies, better culture. So I think since I've been in this world, I started advocating for, but why is this important? Like it's not just something that we want for the sake of it. It's actually better for companies. It's better for cultures. And I think the situation is evolving a lot. There are many more women in the space. Also, I think with COVID and the pandemic, what actually this did, like it brought more remote work, which is better for women. And many companies today are remote, and especially with Web3, with flexible work hours, which brings more women into the space, which is amazing. So I'm not saying that we are there yet. Of course not. There's a lot of work to do, but I think we have the field now for more women to join, and for more women to work in this space, especially when you think about Web3 and opening up new opportunities, also for women in emerging markets who in the past could not even apply for a job because they live in a marginalized country. And today, just because they have a device and an internet connection, they can invest, and they can work in the field. So I think we live in the best time ever. It's just about making the opportunities available for people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting you mentioned about the sort of the impacts and the facts behind diversity within a boardroom and a company. And I'm a big football fan. Listeners of this podcast are probably sick to death of me talking about it, but it's also been proven in a football boardroom as well that having a sort of diverse leadership group can be incredibly beneficial. So the stats are there, and it's good to at least hear that things are heading in the right direction. How do you feel the landscape for women in finance and investing has evolved over the course of your career? Is it you're confident everything's heading in the right direction?
I think it definitely got better.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would separate like the Web3 and the old Web2, let's
Yeah.
say, world. I think with Web3, what you see is, if you think about the adoption of digital assets and Bitcoin and stable coins, you will see that the adoption is higher in countries that either have a high inflation
Yep.
or they have a distrust in their government. That means that people are getting smarter because their countries, their economical system, their financial system is not working. So they're looking for alternatives, and they find this alternative in Web3. And therefore, that's also true for men and women, but it's great for women as well. So that's happening more in, as I said, like marginalized countries with high inflation. I think there's still a lot of work to do in our world, because we live in a country that has more prosperity. We kind of have more trust towards our government. Our currencies are not subject to that degree of inflation. And therefore, I believe people are lazier and they just accept things. And I think here, what we need to do is different. So what we need to do is to embed Web3 into Web2 so that it resembles what people are already accustomed to have. So I think in our world, and mostly for Europe, like that's the region I'm working on with Circle, it's about how can we partner with the leading banks and institutions and embed Web3 services into experiences that customers are already using, because they're not going to look for alternatives. They're not going to want to learn how to use, a wallet, how to send money to a weird address, how to custody themselves on a ledger. Like a very small population of people will do that. And therefore, the strategies have to be different. But what I'm seeing is that there is a change, especially in emerging markets. And there are a lot of women doing that jump.
Well, that's great to hear. It's quite interesting. You mentioned at the beginning there about certain countries that might have high inflation that have a higher adoption into sort of the crypto world, Web3 world, and obviously Argentina, I guess, fits that bracket. And our CEO of eToro, 𝗧𝗸𝘀𝘆, I think, at the Milken conference a couple of weeks ago, he met the Argentinian president and was just fascinated by him. It really, really was, and it got me thinking, like, if you could. Is there anyone in that world that you're desperate to meet that you would love to have a conversation with?
In the world of Web3 in general?
Yeah.
Probably Michael Saylor would be an interesting one to have a long conversation with, right? Because of his resilience and ability to believe long term despite anything that can happen, and to bring that vision within a company that has been 100% traditional, and because of his vision he saved the company. He renovated the company completely. He renovated the culture, and really he's one of the major advocates for Bitcoin today globally. So I think, and he only got into Bitcoin, I think, in the past few years. So he was not one of the OGs. And I think we need more people like him.
Yeah. Well, Michael, if you're listening, somehow, somewhere, you're invited to come on with Sanja and I to talk about it all in person. Sanja, with your background in both multinational corporations and pioneering startups, what advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly women, that are looking to enter the fintech or Web3 world?
I think the main one is really embrace the uncertainty, like navigate the uncertainty. Don't wait until you have everything figured out. I think women in general are less risk adverse, more risk adverse, sorry.
Yeah.
And therefore they usually wait to have all the information. They usually wait to be 100% prepared before making a jump. And when I mentor women, that's the first thing that we look into. Don't wait to be perfect. And someone said to me, like, many years ago, don't be afraid to be seen trying out. And even if you fail, it's fine, because you can learn a lot from it. And I think as well, when you look at Europe versus US and how we are brought up, we are more conservative. In the US, people are really fueled to try, to fail, to learn, to experiment from young age, like from school. We don't have that. We have this idea of failure as a very bad thing, as a punishment. And so I think for us in Europe, it's even more difficult because we have this cultural bias. And everyone around us will be like, don't leave your career, don't leave your monthly paycheck. So it's even harder. for us. But it's something that, again, is changing with remote work, with companies becoming more international as a result of that. So I think that's the main one, like the uncertainty, letting go of things, learning from failures. And that's something that women need to get better at, for sure.
That's one of the best things I've heard in this field. You said, don't be afraid to be seen to try something out, and I think that's just amazing. It really, I think, will resonate with a lot of people. Do you enjoy doing all the mentoring? You find it worthwhile?
I love it because I think, I went through a lot myself, and I had the same fears, and I didn't have mentors around me. I don't come from a wealthy family or a family of entrepreneurs, so I had to find these people like around me at the time, in a time where social media, LinkedIn was not that used, and I would find myself like writing to people, finding mentors in many different ways. I think it's much easier today, but I had this idea as well that I could not fail, and that would be seen very badly, and I didn't want to make a bad impression on the people around me, and I had to let go of all of that. And most of my mentors were men, and I learned a lot from male mentors about their mentality, and that helped me a lot. So yeah, I do enjoy that. I think we need to informally mentor women all the time. Like, it doesn't need to be a formal program in a company with allocated hours. Like, it can be very informal conversations with anyone, really. And that's how you help others. That's how you help other women. And elevating more women that are having the success, are having the results. Because most of times what I see is women are very competitive between each other. Well, while actually we can help each other a lot. So once you make that jump and you let go of like wanting to be better than the other woman there, I think that unlocks a lot of collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. It's quite interesting. The first sort of main job that I had, I worked at a proprietary trading firm in London where people would come and learn to trade, and they would trade the company's funds. And I would say over the sort of 6 years actually that I did that, women in general performed a lot better. And I think it was actually because they were quite risk averse with the way that they traded and the way they invested. And it was actually quite standout. I think you had men that would come in and you'd think, oh, I need to make loads of money today, and just jump straight in. And of course, it doesn't always work like that. But it's interesting how that happens. We'll talk about the book in a moment. I mean, listen, you've been recognized as one of the top 100 individuals in crypto and one of the top 100 women in Web3, which is obviously amazing. So congratulations on that. How do you see the role of women evolving in these, let's face it, male dominated fields, and what initiatives do you believe are crucial for promoting gender diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's not anymore about like men and women. It's about diversity in general. I think, as I mentioned before, there's a great opportunity now with remote work for anyone to join. So I think it's about, one, educating people out there, women as well, about the opportunity, what it is. It's not as complex as it sounds, and you can do it as well. And you don't need to have a super technical background, because your skills are valuable, and what you don't know, you can learn it. So I think there's a lot of education that we need to do, and it needs to be different, as I said, in developed countries versus emerging countries, because the cultural bias and the behavior will be different. And of course, continuing to elevate women that are doing a great job. Because I think in the past, what I struggled with is not seeing women as CEOs or, in C position, that kind of like prevents you from trying as well. And it's lonely to be the only one. So the more women there are out there, the more it creates an opportunity for younger generations and women to see, hey, I can do it as well. So I don't need to work in just like HR or legal. I can be the CEO of a company. Nothing bad about working in HR or legal. It's just that historically the concentration of women there is higher. So I think women need to understand that, they can do other things, that are more women doing it, and more women that are super happy to mentor them, to welcome them. It's friendlier than you think, actually.
Yeah, great advice. Let's talk about the book then, which is titled Web3 and Blockchain for Women, a guide for women on working, investing and thriving in the Bitcoin economy. What inspired you to write the book? How did it all come about?
Yeah, actually, it's not only a book for women. Let me just say that it's a book for anyone that wants to learn more about money mindset, about blockchain, explained in a very, very simple way. So this is not a book to learn everything technical about blockchain. It's a book for beginners. It's a book that it's for people that really want to understand with very simple words what we're talking about. What is Web3? What is a money mindset? What inspired me is really when I had my own company and I was the CEO of a company, I would have conversations with women that are financially literate, very smart women that, one, had no idea what a Bitcoin was or blockchain, and two, they would outsource their finances to either their husbands or, someone in a bank. And that got me really thinking, why is this happening, even for women that should understand this and should put their brain into this. And it's very it's very cultural, because money is not for women. Talking about money is bad. We should be talking about having kids and raising families. And there is a lot of cultural bias that goes in our head, like very unconsciously still, in all societies. And two, as I said before, women are more scared about trying new things. So when you talk to them about blockchain, it looks so complex that it creates a barrier. Like, don't even tell me about, like, I don't want to know. It sounds scary, like, tell it to my husband. And so that's why really I wanted to write about my story. So I'm not someone that was born in a lot of wealth, or, I don't come from a technical background. However, I managed to learn about this technology and use it in my favor. And I think, just by sharing my story out there, and explaining this like with a very simple language, even if I can help 10 women out there, it's going to be a great success for me, because it enables them to unlock something new, to create wealth, and to pass it to other women and to their families. So that's how it started. But then what I really love to see is, like, I have a lot of men writing me that they're buying the book as well for themselves, because they want to learn about blockchain, or they're buying it for their wife. So it is gaining a lot of traction with men as well.
Fantastic. Well, I think, it's something that people can relate to. And if it can be broken down into simple format, it's a no-brainer. So I recommend people to go and check the book out. The link, as I said, is in the bio somewhere around here that I'm pointing for those that are watching on YouTube, but it's also in the bio on the podcast as well. You briefly mentioned it there, but in the book, you mentioned the importance of reshaping one's money mindset. Could you, for our audience, elaborate on some key principles or strategies you recommend for women to achieve financial empowerment in the Web3 era?
Yeah, So money mindset, that's very important, because each one of us, if you really dig deeper into your subconscious and like how you were brought up, each one of you will have some fears and some conceptions around money, right? And for some people, it might be that even if you make money, you will lose it very easily, or people that have a lot of money are bad people. And therefore, you need to work on these mindsets and these fears in order to be completely open to receive abundance and receive money. And I know it sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo, but in fact, it's not. Because if you don't work on your fears and your subconscious beliefs about money, when you find yourself in a position to start earning a lot, to start, making a lot of money from your investments, or what you believe is a lot of money, like a substantial amount for you, you will be rejecting it. You will have a fear of it. And if you have fear, to imagine you have a Bitcoin in your ledger. So if you have the fear about money losing value in time, you will be there every day checking the value, and that's not healthy. You need to have a long-term mindset, right? And that's why I think, really the book provides some insights and some exercises to uncover what your unconscious belief about money is, and how to rework that mindset, so that you can think about money as a neutral thing, as something that you should not fear, and you should not even fear people that have money and have those preconceptions. So that's really important for everyone, but especially for women, because as I said before, we were all born in a society where women talking about money, it's not very common. It's not healthy. Things are changing because new generations are much more empowered, and I'm so happy to see that. And younger women today, like women in their early 20s, they know what they want, and that's amazing. But our generation was not so, and therefore that's why it's even more important.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you there, and I can just think of so many people, both men and women, that I know will benefit from this book, that really do need to change their mindset, and maybe they're a little bit scared to initially to do that, but they, should they do it, it's just so empowering, and then it opens up so many new doors. I think it's something that wasn't taught in school for us as growing up, and it needs to be addressed now. So I think really would recommend this. Let's talk about balance. You've obviously been a CEO. You're now got a great job as well at 𝗧𝗸𝘆𝘀, vice president in Europe for that. You're an investor. You're a mentor. You're an advocate for diversity and inclusion, and obviously a new mother as well. How do you deal with all of that? Are there any specific challenges that you're facing, and how would you overcome all of that to keep a real balance?
That's a question I really like, because I think you can never have everything.
No.
You cannot have, a job or a company, passions, like have a lot of time for your family, a lot of time for travel, a lot of time for friends. So I think life goes in cycles like this. And in every phase, you need to decide what matters for you in this phase of your life, what is important. What are the 2 or 3, like maximum 3 things you're going to focus on, because you cannot do everything. And I think this idea that is passed to us, like you can have it all, you can do whatever, it's not really. So I think it's about deciding what am I going to focus on? Is it going to be my job and my family? Great. Is it going to be building a company? Great. Then I need to sacrifice some other things. And I think what is important, at least for me, what helps me is do something you love, because when you do something you love, it's not really work and you're not going to resent it. Of course, if you're doing something just for the sake of having a paycheck at the end of the month, of course, you're going to be resentful because you're going to put a lot of hours into something you don't like and you don't have time for your family. But I think in my case, it's like work in a field that you really like and you enjoy. And then the time you have for your family is even more special because then you are fulfilled, you can give more, and you can be a better person, a better role model for them. But of course, you know, we need to let go of this idea that we can have it all and work-life balance. And, you know, it's about priorities. What are the priorities for you in this phase of life? And maybe for you, you want to have a sabbatical for 2 years and be with your child, and that's fine as well.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, going in your heart and understanding what is important for you, what is important for you as a family, what you want to do, and choose that, focus on that. Don't try to have it all because it's impossible, right? You will go crazy. So do what matters for you, and accept that life goes in cycles, and maybe next year it's going to be different, and in 10 years it's going to be different as well.
Yeah, do what's right for you, and life goes in cycles. Isn't that great advice for us to wrap it up today? Sanja, thank you so much for coming on. And as I mentioned, the book is in the bio for people to check out as well. Sanja, thank you.
Thank you so much.